What's up, team? It's the Centaur Inyang here. This is going to be Centaur Q&A number 7. So I'm going to get this out of the way, starting with the first question. What accessory exercises would you consider best for each of the 3 main lifts, bench, squat, and deadlift? Now, really, I wouldn't say there are any best accessory movements because every athlete has different weaknesses. Some individuals may be weak with their chest on the bench press. Some individuals may be weak with their triceps. In the squat, some people might have weak glutes, some might have weak quads. Now, if we're talking very, very general accessory movements that you should probably have added into your program, I'd say pause squats, pause deadlifts, potentially benching with the pause at the very bottom, and that means you're bringing the bar down, you're controlling the position down here, you're not letting the bar sink and you're losing position and you're coming back up. Another good one for the bench is a tempo bench press because a lot of athletes tend to be very shaky when they're coming down with the bar, so it might be good to be able to control the downward motion of that lift with 55, 60, 65% loads. But I do think that a majority of strength athletes need to actually train a little bit more like bodybuilders on the side, because a lot of strength athletes, especially a majority who are novice and intermediate lifters, haven't really built up their bodies and built enough mass on their frame to actually really be able to handle heavy load, which is why a lot of people that are bodybuilders that come into powerlifting end up being really, really strong because they've already built a base of muscle. So make sure not to miss out on your small bodybuilder accessory work like your dumbbell bench pressing, your leg extensions, your adduction and abduction, all that kind of stuff. Don't miss out on it. Next question. Advice you would give someone new to bodybuilding? I would say this, like I've mentioned before in videos, I was lucky to start bodybuilding when I was 13. Whenever I had Auschwitz slaughter, I couldn't really run for 3 years and I had to do something that would allow me to still be athletic and get rid of energy. So I started bodybuilding at 13 and I didn't have external pressures around me. I didn't have really idols I look up to. I mean, I just wanted to kind of look like Goku. I wanted to look like Super Saiyan. And I didn't know, I didn't know ways to speed up the process other than working out. Nowadays, with social media, with people that like me that are on social media that have been doing this for a long time, Matt Ogish, Jeff Nippard, Chris Elkins, a lot of these big natural bodybuilders that have been doing this for years, when men and women see some of these athletes, they're like, how the hell can I do that? I just started, this is my first month, I've seen no results, I'm not any stronger, I'm not any bigger. They then ask themselves, oh, what can I do to speed up my results? And the simple answer is just do it more, do it for years, and that's not sexy. So that's why people turn to using different types of anabolics. Now, my main advice to you is be patient. Understand that you're not gonna look like Matt Ogish, you're not gonna look like Chris Elkins in 2 years, in 3 years. These guys have been lifting for over a decade. And it's not even like, this is the thing, you might not even end up looking like them. You might not end up looking like me if you train for 10 years because they're structured differently. They have a different mother and father than you do. But if you just work continuously and learn and you're consistent and you're patient, you will get the best physique that you can possibly get for yourself. And I guarantee it will be more impressive than you expect it to be. But the only thing is you need to give yourself the time to do it. And nowadays, I think it's more difficult than ever to actually do that because there's so much around. People now, like back when I was lifting, when I was younger, you would look at people in the Flex magazine or whatever, and you'd be like, I can get that big without anything. Now people know that they're on stuff. And that's why I see a lot of there's gyms here in Sacramento where I've heard young kids, 16, 17, 18, getting into using stuff because guys around them are using stuff, guys they know on social media are using stuff, so now they use that kind of stuff. Those are their examples. So the biggest thing, man, I can tell you is be consistent, be patient, put in the work, and put blinders on. Just understand that your results are your results if you want to stay as a natural athlete. And if you do it for a while, you will look better than you ever thought you could. Next question. I'm going to be taking a sabbatical from the gym for about 2 months. I have a week where I can get in the gym. There's another break for 1 month, career reasons. What's the best thing I can do to prevent strength loss while I'm away from the weights? I would say if you can, maybe some high intensity interval training in terms of sprints or jumps or that kind of cardio would be a good idea. If you can't do any of that, then honestly, you probably lose a little bit of strength if you can't be active in any fashion. The other best thing that you could probably do is body weight exercises, so you could get yourself like one of those pull-up bars you can put on a door frame, push-ups, and you could do like a body weight circuit around your house. Honestly, if you keep those muscles active, it will make sure that when you do get back into the gym, at least not the movement mechanics aren't totally lost, because when you do come back after 2 months, some of the movements will be foreign for about 1 or 2 weeks. But the thing is, even if you took a 2-month period off and let's say you didn't do anything, chances are that when you come back, the first 3 weeks are going to be hell, but once you get to week 4, week 5, week 6, you will have regained the strength that you had when you were gone from the gym or when you were at the gym before. Next question. Tell me about your parents. So my dad, mom and dad were separated. Mom was a single parent. Dad was, I believe he was like 6'3", 250, huge guy, never really worked out. And mom is jacked for no reason. She did shot put, which is the ball throwing thing, while she was in college. Super athletic woman. I'll post a picture of her here. She doesn't really work out and she still has abs, so she's great. She has massive legs. And yeah, I just know that my dad was a giant. He was a really, really big dude, never did any sports. They were both engineers, actually. My mom builds bridges. She's a civil engineer, and my dad was also a mechanical and a civil engineer. He's somewhere in Africa right now, but he used to be here in the States. So yeah, there you go. That's a little bit about my parents. Next question. I just finished my first official powerlifting competition and I absolutely fell in love with the sport. I've been training for almost a year now, and I would like to ask, what advice would you give to a beginner powerlifter trying to get into the sport? Do you necessarily need a team or coach to further yourself? This is the thing with, I answered a question like this in the last Q&A, but I thought about it a little bit, and this is what I think. You know, with any sport that you start, a real sport, right? When you're playing soccer, you have a soccer coach, you have a soccer team. Basketball coach, basketball team. Tennis, you could play tennis on your own, but if you wanted to further your productivity in terms of drills and getting better, you would have a tennis teacher or tennis coach. So with powerlifting, you can do it on your own because there's a lot of resources out there, but obviously you can get rid of certain pitfalls, you can get rid of certain bad habits that you would build up if you had a good coach to work with you. So you don't need these things to do well, especially, you know, if you have a background as an athlete or if you have a background as a lifter, but definitely your progress can be expedited or sped up if you didn't have a coach to help you out. So it's not necessary, but it definitely is something that could help you out. Travis asks, I've trained conventional deadlift for about 8 months straight now, and I've been wanting to try sumo, but my problem is when I go for sumo, I always try to drive with my back. What's the best way to get out of this habit so I can go heavier on sumo? Cheers, Centaur. So the thing is, if you have the habit of pulling the bar off the ground with conventional deadlift using your back, you've already built, I wouldn't say that's ideal in terms of the mechanics of the conventional deadlift. That typically will lead to some type of injury or back strain. Your hips are a much stronger girdle to use as the main mover for any of these movements than your back. So you need to lower the weight and work with loads that you can ensure your hips are being the main mover and work up from there, because what I'm probably thinking is your hips are weak. And the reason why you're not using your hips as the main mover is because they're too weak to be the main mover and you're not used to that. You know, same thing with the squat. When a lot of individuals get to the bottom of a squat, they have a tendency of letting their hips rise because their hips aren't very strong. Their back takes the brunt of the force and then their hips drive through. Some people have an excuse of having long femurs, but a majority of people, it's because their hips are really, really weak. So a good idea is maybe to add in some accessories like barbell hip thrusts, single leg hip thrusts with like a barbell or a plate on your leg while your back is on a bench. Anything that's isolating the glutes. Rope glute pulls, bring your hips back. I'm moving around like I'm trying to show you. Bring your hips back and bring your hips forward. These type of movements will help you learn how to hinge at the hips and use the hips as the main mover. I also did make a video about hip hinge, so make sure to go check that out, because hip hinge is a very important thing to learn how to do when doing a conventional deadlift, a squat, a sumo deadlift. All of these things require you to actually hinge at the hips and use your hips. So that's what I'd suggest, my friend. Next question. Hey, Mr. Centaur. I have a question about the foot stance and the deadlift. Recently, I've become used to deadlifting conventional with a really close stance and feet angled out like duck feet. Is this an effective way to pull, or should I cut this habit? Thanks. Now, it really depends on how wide of an angle your foot is at. For example, I do not, when I do a conventional deadlift, I angle my feet outwards a little bit too, because what happens is when I come down, my quads are kind of big. So if I keep my feet straight, my quads are gonna get in the way a little bit as I do come up. So I angle my feet outwards just a tad, maybe around 15, 20 degrees, so that they're not in the way, and I can still produce a good amount of force coming off of the ground. Also, when you do a conventional deadlift, I typically also like to create a small amount of torque so that my knees don't cave in. I've talked about torque in many videos now. If you don't know what that is, just I'm sorry. Anyway, that's a twisting force engaging your hips. So no, it's not a bad idea. A lot of people think very classically about the conventional deadlift, where your feet have to face straight forward, and there shouldn't be any type of angle there. But if you know what you're doing and you know why you're creating that foot angle, you're gonna be perfectly okay. Obviously, it shouldn't be like a sumo deadlift where you have a much wider foot angle, maybe around 50 to 60 degrees, but a 10, 20 degree angle just so you can be a little bit more comfortable and you're heading down to grab the bar is perfectly okay. Next question. Do you take anything to aid in a good night's sleep, like vitamins and such? I actually used to take something called valerian root. Valerian root, actually, whenever I took that, I would get I would just sleep really, really good. I'd always have a good night's sleep. And that's the only thing. I don't take melatonin. I don't take anything else. Valerian root is what I used to take. I'm pretty sure I still have a bottle at home. I just haven't taken it in a while because I've been getting really good sleep because of the new mattress that I have. So I'm gonna actually talk to you guys about that mattress in a later video, but I've been sleeping like a baby and it's amazing. So yeah, next question. How do you recommend building athletic endurance and speed while keeping my strength and muscle? So, you know, the thing about doing any type of sport, this is the same thing when I did soccer, and actually this is the same thing as I'm doing BJJ now, is when you get into these type of sports, you need to realize what are the big things I'm trying to achieve. When I played soccer, I wanted to be the fastest, I wanted to have a good endurance, and I wanted to be the strongest. That didn't necessarily mean I wanted to be the biggest, that just means I wanted to have a lot of strength. Just because you're big doesn't necessarily mean you're strong and agile. So, obviously, you know, you have your sprint training, you have your jumping that you do on the field, and then when you're working out, I would say mainly stick to, you know, compound movements. Don't really work with really, really heavy loads in the 87 or 85 plus percentages. I would say 85 is okay, but anything above 85 I'd stray away from, and work within the 4 to 7 rep range. So anything between 65 and 85%, because generally you'll be able to keep safe with those weights. Because remember, the last thing you need is a gym injury to prevent you from being on the field. And another thing you need to understand is that, yes, you can do accessory work, like, you know, you can do biceps, you can do triceps, those are good to do, but you also have to realize that you're not going to necessarily hold on to as much muscle as you would if you weren't playing rugby. This is the same thing that happened when I was playing soccer, mosquitoes. When I stopped playing soccer, I got a lot bigger because I wasn't doing all of that work on the field. So your goal necessarily shouldn't be, I want to have the biggest muscles on the field. Your goal should be, I want to be the most athletic, I want to be the fastest, and I want to be really, really strong in application to my sport. So I understand that with jiu-jitsu, I've already lost a little bit of arm size. I don't care though, because I'm a lot better on the mats, and that needs to be your mentality while playing rugby. Next question. Creatine and meal timing. Let's first talk about creatine. I've talked about creatine. It's a great supplement to use. Take 3 to 5 grams every single day. The thing about creatine is it's not a stimulant, so you're gonna forget to take it, but just don't forget to take it. I actually forgot to take it and I had to start retaking my creatine. Meal timing. In the big hierarchy of importance when it comes to nutrition, meal timing is one of the, it's honestly one of the more, it's not as important as everything else. It's not as important as intaking as much protein as possible, or not as much protein as possible. Intaking the necessary amount of protein that you need in terms of your body weight, so a gram per pound, just let's be general. Intaking a decent amount of carbohydrates to be able to perform, and also fat intake for hormonal reasons and also potentially performance. But meal timing versus hydration. Hydration is more important. Meal timing versus sleep. Sleep is more important for muscle gain. If you're really trying to get into meal timing, the basics that you need to understand is, in terms of your protein, if you're if you want to maximize muscle protein synthesis, have your protein feedings in even portions during the day. If you're gonna have 150 grams of protein every single day, maybe split your protein into 3 feedings of 40 grams and then a feeding of 30 grams if you're really trying to maximize muscle protein synthesis. But you need to realize this, the amount that is really going to be maximized is what's it going to be, 3%? It's so minimal, it will not make a difference in your long-term results, which is why for majority of people, I do not complicate things, and it won't be necessary for their progress. This type of small, I'm not trying to get at you for this, but I want to talk about something here, because people think of the small minuscule things, the minute details, and all of these minute details at certain points, if you're an advanced level bodybuilder, you're trying to get those last amounts of muscle that you're going to get on your physique, those minute details might be pretty important. In the big scheme of things, for the amount of muscle you're gonna gain, for the amount of strength you're gonna gain, meal timing isn't important. Getting in your total macros during the day is important. Potentially having food prior to working out, feeding yourself before you work out sometime during the day will probably help you with your performance during that lift. But if you're trying to maximize meal timing for, gaining muscle or potentially gaining strength, it's not gonna make a big difference. You just need to think of sleep, hydrate, get in all your macros for the day, gonna be good to go. I have a friend that eats literally one meal every single day. Strong as hell. Intermittent fasting works too. But yeah, big picture. That's why I think I'm good at what I do, because I understand what the minute details are, but I don't drag myself down. I don't drag athletes down with the minute details. I think about the big picture. Oh, you went over your macros today? Okay, that's not, as a powerlifter, that's not a big deal. Let's just be a little bit more consistent later. You'll probably have a great workout tomorrow. That's how I think about things. Okay, that's it for the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got something from it. I'll be filming the Centaur form fix probably on Sunday, because I think I'm gonna go watch somebody compete on Saturday. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I love all of you. This is Nsima the Centaur Inyang from Break the Bar, be an anomaly, and I'll talk to all of you very, very soon.